Welcome back to the Solid Verbal Boys and Girls. Ty Hildenbrandt here. Dan Rubenstein over there. Beautiful New York City. Solidverbal@gmail.com is our email address. Hit us up on Twitter, where our handle is @solidverbal. And don't forget to like the Facebook page, as I've mentioned time and time again. Word has finally gotten out about these whole Facebooks thingamajigs, and people are starting to like the page. Tonight, though, the bigger deal is that we are taking calls momentarily at 408 Verbal 1. It's sort of our birthday show, Daniel. Happy 5th birthday to you and the Solid Verbal.
What do you get the podcasters that have everything? I don't know. I'm asking you. What do you want? What would make our podcast better technologically in your eyes if we had it?
Maybe if we had a teleportation machine where you and I could be in the same locale when we did the show.
True.
I don't know if Elon Musk has invented that yet, but if he has, that might come in handy for you and I. Other than that, it might be good to have a studio other than my old childhood bedroom where I broadcast every week. And maybe a producer. That'd be nice too. But in the interim, I think we're getting by just fine.
What would be the most comfortable possible thing that you could wear while podcasting?
The most comfortable possible thing?
Yeah, like what to you would make you the best possible broadcaster clothing-wise?
Right now, I've got a pair of mesh shorts and a T-shirt on. That seems to work
That's
pretty
not
well.
bad.
That's usually the uniform of champions for me.
Yeah. Oh, my answer is nothing.
Nothing.
My answer, no. I could go with a good bathrobe. I feel like if I had a solid verbal robe,
Right.
very high softness quotient, I feel like I could do my best possible work.
All right. Well,
I don't know what that means, but I'm just I'm always curious.
A little strange. This is our 5th birthday. Tomorrow, August 27th, will be exactly 5 years since we started doing the Solid Verbal. And it works out quite well because this is also game week. The games start up on Thursday night, the biggest of which is North Carolina, South Carolina, which I'm sure at some point we will discuss. In the meantime, though, we figured the best way to celebrate our 5th year anniversary is to open up the phone lines at 408 Verbal 1. I'm going to flip the switch here momentarily, and then you guys can call in if you must. Before we get to that, though, a quick word. We are sponsored still by FanDuel.com. They didn't drop the sponsorship yet, Dan.
That good for them, believing in us.
1 week fantasy football leagues for real hard American cash. This is real money, immediate cash payouts, and the great thing I've said time and time again, no season-long commitment, no upfront fees. If your team bombs, I had a few drafts this weekend. Do you do fantasy football?
I am in at least 3 leagues right now. Yeah,
I'm in 3 as well. I did a few drafts this weekend. Only one team took. The others, not so much. I'm stuck with that team essentially now for the remainder of the season. With FanDuel, no such luck. It's all sorts of good luck, actually.
Right.
No season-long commitment, no upfront fees. You can play each and every week or whenever you want. It's all up to you. If you want, just set a new lineup each week, and that'll be good enough. Now there's a new user special. If you sign up this week and use the exclusive code TD, FanDuel will give you an extra free entry into its $5,000 opening week money game with lots of chances to win. Again, they're paying out a lot of money this year, $135 million, but you can't get any of that if you don't play the way you can play. Go to FanDuel.com, click on the mic in the top right corner, use the promo code TD. They'll give you one free entry into a huge $5,000 opening week money game. Again, that's FanDuel.com, where every week is a new season. FanDuel.com. That's the web address.
What are you doing with $5,000? You have to spend it tonight. What are you doing with it?
I might be putting it all on my week 1 lock of the week, which maybe I'll reveal tonight. I'm feeling pretty good about this one. Feeling pretty good about this one. All right, I'm opening up the phones here, by the way, for anyone interested. It is 408 Verbal 1, and if you were at all present during our last live show, you will remember that this is very, very duct taped and chicken wired. Excuse me.
Yeah, it is.
You're going to hear a phone ring. I'm going to hit a button. Then you're going to be on the air. So in the meantime, before we get our first call, oh, we do. My gosh. That did not take long at all to get a call on the line. I had something to say to you, Dan. I guess that can wait. We can.
Is it going to be? I hope it's Uncle Joe.
Well, we'll see who it is. We've got a caller on the line. Hello, sir or madam. You are on with Ty and Dan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Good. Who do we got on the phone?
Jeff in suburban Chicago, a Big 12 fan stuck in the Midwest.
What goes on in suburban Chicago?
A lot of chain restaurants and talk about the Big Ten.
Okay, so that must be difficult for you then if you're a Big 12 fan.
Well, I'm a bias towards all things Texas football, specifically TCU. So, yeah, it makes it kind of tough, but so be it. I got a great job, and I love it. So.
All right, so what's up? TCU, big game opening week against LSU, neutral site game.
I do want to do some deep message board rumors that just broke about the time you guys went on the air.
Okay.
I think I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
The first-team All-American defensive end Devontae Fields got cleared to play against LSU.
Okay, that's good, right?
It is for us.
Yeah.
I'll take all I can get, yeah. So, anyway, takes the focus off Paha. But my big question was, I've listened to this show for 3 years. I absolutely love it. We don't know anything about what you do, Ty, other than descriptions of the bathroom.
Right.
What is it that you do?
I work with technology, in case that isn't evident.
Okay.
I don't want to give away too much.
What do you specific? You don't have to say where you work, Ty, but can you give us any details about perhaps some day-to-day elements of your job?
There are a lot of day-to-day elements on display through the Solid Verbal. A lot of web, type stuff. For those of you listening, we've got a new website at solidverbal.com. If you haven't noticed that,
sure, beautiful.
There are some elements of web in what I do on a day-to-day basis.
That's more like you're talking about, like development.
There's some development. There's some strategy, let's say, involved in the day-to-day operations. See, I don't want to give away too much because there are a few people who think I work for the CIA, and I feel like that, like just on a personal level, when I see that sort of thing, it makes me feel very cool. So I'm afraid if I give away too much, I will dispel the rumors and therefore not be as cool in people's eyes. But no, a lot of web stuff, a lot of technology stuff. If you were to look at a standard issue IT guy, maybe I'm a little cooler than him, but for the most part, that's sort of what I'm doing.
I don't know if the people out there are familiar, and I'm not gonna expose any details of Ty's professional life, but if you see how good solidverbal.com looks, it's pretty evident that, and I'll let the cat a little bit out of the bag here, Ty is the webmaster for browsers.com.
Right, that's exactly what I do, yeah.
Ty is in charge of a very important network, so it's pretty cool to have you aboard the Solid Verbal, Ty.
No, thank you. So a lot of technology stuff, to be honest with you.
How do you feel, Ty? How do you feel? Because he's a TCU guy. I want to bring it back to college football.
Yeah.
How do you feel about, so if Devontae Fields does indeed play, and Gary Patterson has been somewhat passive-aggressive about Les Miles' comments and actions with Jeremy Hill, who was suspended and not suspended. Devontae Fields was not going to play and now is listed as an alternate starter on TCU's original depth chart for the Cowboy Classic. How do you feel about the going back and forth, the wavering, the flip-flopping when it comes to discipline and playing in a game?
First off, is he playing or is he not playing?
Listed as an alternate starter, that's all we know.
As an alternate starter. I think it was.
Whereas before he was definitely suspended.
I think it was kind of shady the way they went about it with letting the team. I mean, what did you think the team was going to say? Really? What did you think the team was going to say when he asked him, should one of our better running backs play? Of course they're going to say yes. So I thought that was shady, and I think.
But with Les Miles, not Patterson, yeah.
Right, Les Miles. I think it probably went over well with the players on the team. But to be honest, I'm not sure how well it went over. Certainly, we know Gary Patterson didn't approve of it. And in a way, that makes this game a little more interesting. So, no, I think that was shady.
And now Gary Patterson perhaps playing a player that he himself suspended.
No, he smells blood now, and he knows he needs to win this game. This is a big one here in 9 o'clock on Saturday night in Cowboy Stadium. Jeff, before we hang up with you, do you have a read on this game as a TCU fan?
You know, I'm biased. I think I fill out the bracket that we go 13-0 every year.
Right.
I think we can win. I think we can win. It won't be more than a touchdown if we lose, and Patterson just always finds a way to scrape together close games and win close games. So I'm an unbiased homer. I'm a totally biased homer, but I think we're actually going to beat LSU. I don't know if we would have beat them in November, but I think we can beat them the first game of the year because they're so darn young.
They also lose a lot on defense, and 4.5 is the line. They're getting 4.5. It's sort of a home game for both teams, to be honest. 4.5 is a lot of points in an opening week game. With two defensive-minded schools and a lot of losses for LSU. That seems like a lot to me on first glance, but I may change my mind 8 times before Saturday rolls around.
It could. I did want to tell you guys, my wife was going through my iTunes and asked me to describe all the podcasts I listen to, and I got to this show, and I didn't quite know where to start. So
That's good. That's what we're going for.
Yeah, as I said, it's college football, but there's other things that talk college football. Nothing quite like this. So keep up the good work. And there's a very cool sliver of people that listen to this show, and I'm really glad I found it.
All right. Well, thank you, Jeff, for calling in, and we will talk more TCU LSU as the week progresses. Take care.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Again, that is Jeff.
Yep.
We now have an open slot here. My hunch is that the phone will be ringing very closely. Closely to me pushing this button. What is your read on that game? LSU TCU.
Tremendously excited for a couple of the individual matchups. Jason Verrett is, all-American quality corner for TCU, and the fact that he will get matched up. Not that LSU's passing game is all that fun to watch or all that productive, but Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry. I don't know if Verrett plays on both sides or just plays on a single side, but whoever he's matched up against in that game, it's gonna be an outstanding matchup. So. Love the athletes, and LSU obviously they don't bring back a ton defensively, but Anthony Johnson is another All-SEC, All-American type player on the inside for LSU, and then Lamine Barrow is a pretty good linebacker, and Craig Loston sort of slides into the sort of star safety role that Eric Reed abandons. So I like it, and then that coupled with TCU's offensive skill talent that returns or starts transferring or playing for the offense in that game. There's a lot of sort of congruous storylines that should be fun.
4.5 points is the line right now. Who are you taking there on first glance?
You're asking me pre-Wednesday preview show?
I'm saying lean. Let play it like Kirk Herbstreit does, where he can't pick a team, but there is something that he feels is the key that he's looking most at.
Okay, and I won't put Washington in the same boat as TCU Washington last year, but perhaps there are some similarities about the Oregon team a couple of years ago, just with the skill talent that they had that year and with what TCU has this year. It's very, very difficult to bet against John Chavis, especially on a fast track. And not that LSU has a ton of experience coming back, but they've recruited quite well. There are stars there. We just don't know who they are. So with that amount of time, but with similarly that inexperience, I'm still the three-headed monster at running back for LSU if Jeremy Hill does indeed receive some snaps, with Hill and Alfred Blue and Kenny Hilliard. Just power.
Right.
And we'll see what happens with TCU's front. And, they don't have the linebacking core that they've had in years past. They lose Hazley, whatever his name is. Tank Carter obviously no longer there.
Yep.
If LSU's able to just grind out 4, 6, 9, 7 yards, I think I'm going to go LSU by a touchdown.
Yeah. Well, and
I think I could see 27-20-ish.
Yeah, and that's also assuming the same that we've seen over the past few years. Cam Cameron comes in there now, and do they throw the ball more? Remember that game against Alabama?
Right.
When Zach Mettenberger saw the light, he came to Rezus, we'll say, and threw the ball unlike we had seen previously at any point in his young career.
Right.
Will Cam Cameron try to do more of that this season? Who knows? We don't know. We've got a caller on the line, by the way.
Okay, let's take the call. I think LSU's offense is LSU's offense. Cam Cameron might help tweak the passing game, but I don't think they're going to overhaul the percentages and the balance.
Not going air raid overnight.
No.
All right. Caller on the line. You are on with Dan and Ty. How are you?
Hello?
Hi, this is Dan and Ty. Who's this?
Hey, Dan and Ty. It's Shrevin. How are you guys?
Good. What's up, man?
Hey, not much. Can I actually say this? I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go. So, Dan, Ty, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania.
Okay, right down the street.
Same high school as Chad Henne and Kerry Collins.
Wilson Westlawn?
Yeah,
Okay.
That's weird. Okay.
yeah.
That Ty knew
Think
that
about it, big
quickly.
lumbering quarterbacks, right?
Sure.
Anyway, I got two questions for you guys. One's a football one, and one's just a show-related question. So, first question is football-related. Do you think Stanford's getting a little overhyped?
All right.
And the reason I ask that is, first of all, it's the schedule. I feel like it's really difficult, specifically the last 4 or 5 games that they play, where they play, I think it's Oregon State, Oregon, USC, Cal in a row, all difficult games. And then the last piece is their offense, which seems to be a question mark.
All right. So Stanford is like your love child, Dan. You love yourself
Right.
some Stanford this year. And
Uh,
it's all right. I mean, I like Stanford too. His point about the schedule is intriguing because it starts off in fairly easy fashion, but then after the open date in early November, it goes Oregon, USC, Cal, Notre Dame. Cal
right,
is
at
probably
USC.
Cal is the soft spot there, and by then they could be a lot better. So it does get a lot harder as the year progresses. Where are you at with Stanford? Are they overhyped?
I don't think they're overhyped just because this year's defense is as good as we'll see from the Cardinal. Just the depth and the talent level that we've seen. Losing, they lose Chase Thomas, but pretty much everybody else is back. And then with how well they've recruited along the defensive line in the secondary, I think that's where Stanford perhaps takes a step forward from where they've been these past couple seasons. Offensively, yeah, Stephen Taylor was very good, played for a number of years. And the wide receiver position is still a question mark to me about just the game breakers. And then especially given that they lose Toilolo and Zach Ertz. But I do like Kevin Hogan, and the offensive line is so good. So the fact that they can go through the Pac-12 schedule that they have, which, yes, and he is correct, the caller is correct, that it is a tough run. And I would even argue that it begins with UCLA in mid-October. UCLA, Oregon State, Oregon, USC, Cal, Notre Dame. That's a hell of a back end to anybody's schedule in the country. That's at this moment, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6 consecutive games against ranked teams.
Sure.
And then the other game, a rivalry game, which is always weird and important. So I think that if Stanford's going through this schedule, as it looks on paper, at least at this moment, with the best defensive front and the best offensive line in the conference, it's hard to overhype a team that begins the season with a generally accepted fact like that. But
go ahead.
Continue.
No, I was going to say the other big point, just in general, in looking at their schedule, not necessarily the teams on it, but where some of these games are played. 8 home games, only 4 on the road. Of those road games, at Wazoo, which should be a victory. At Oregon State. Corvallis, never an easy place to play.
That's
but
the trappiest trap game, perhaps, of the college football season.
Before-
After playing UCLA,
before an
Oregon.
open date. I mean, there's a bye in between there. It could happen, though. I see what you're saying.
Right.
And then at USC, that's never an easy game either. But it does set up favorably for them. And as we've covered here, often on the show, Stanford with its recruiting has been really solid, and they have
beyond really solid.
Sure, they've maintained that momentum that they started under Jim Harbaugh. David Shaw has done an outstanding job of keeping this program centered. It doesn't feel like there are any gaping holes. So if they do lose, it'll be close. They'll be in every game, to say the very least. I don't think they're overhyped. If anything, they're not as sexy because of the way they play. But I do think that the early hype is well deserved.
More likely, Stanford. Are they more likely to lose at Oregon State or at USC?
Wow. That's a good one.
So they have Oregon the week before the USC game. USC
Yeah.
obviously much more talented than Oregon State, and they have UCLA the week before Oregon State.
I would say at USC.
Okay.
Just more
That's fair.
talent. It's going to take a team with a lot of talent to beat Stanford. And I think
Could
USC.
the Cal game be a letdown game?
The Cal game in between USC and Notre Dame, a lot depends on what happens to Cal as the year progresses. If Sonny Dykes is able to institute that system and get a lot out of his freshman quarterback, we could be talking about a sneaky game. The problem is that it's at home. I guess the problem, if you're looking at it from the standpoint of it being a trap game, trap games at home aren't always the most frequent occurrence.
I would also say the fact that Cal and their defensive line is pretty much in all sorts of new roles with outside linebackers moving to end, and then their offensive line is so young and so inexperienced, and that just if Cal was bringing back a lot of talent along both lines, there's a case to be made. But at least on paper in August, that's a tough sell for me, especially with a true freshman quarterback, presumably still.
Yeah. All right. And the non-show question.
Yeah,
So
non-show
I think you guys-
question.
Yeah, so the show-related question was that you guys talked a little bit on the last show about the who gets hit by a delivery truck, what happens. The question I have is, I don't know if that's necessarily what happens in the case of the show. My question is more, Ty, do you ever feel that or worried that you'll end up getting Adam Carolla by Dan's Jimmy Kimmel,
Ooh.
where you'll be doing podcasts for however many years and Dan's crossover career takes off?
Right. Wow. Good question.
We should also preface it that Adam Carolla makes like $50,000 per live read on his podcast. He's not living a terrible life.
It's never really been a competition. And I've actually gotten that question before. Dan's a successful man. He's very good at what he does. He's also very different in terms of what he does than what I do as sort of the more straight-laced host of a show. So I'd say we're different and we complement each other well, but I don't really worry about that. I think we both root for each other equally. So it's not something I worry openly about. I may or may not have gone on Craigslist and inquired about a hitman.
Sure.
But beyond that, no, it's not something that's a big deal to me.
I will jump in
all right,
and say that if that is the case, I am taking Ty with me to the top. And if it is reversed and Ty goes to the top, I would imagine he's taking Uncle Joe to the top.
That's right.
That's what I've always come to understand.
All right. Thank you for the call.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Taking Uncle Joe to the top, huh?
Yeah, so Uncle Joe, and I don't know if you've told this story on the show. Not a courageous flyer.
No. Refuses to fly.
It's amazing.
Refuses to fly. Yeah. He won't
Is
do
he
it.
the only person in your family and or social circles that feels that way about flight?
I mean, I don't like it, but I'll do it.
I mean, are you a nervous flyer? Do you get sweaty? Do you clench up?
Yeah, I don't like it. I've gotten better at it, but the plane never really goes down. I'm knocking on
You
wood
drive
here.
a car and cars are more dangerous, but even still.
Right. No, Uncle Joe is terrified. He's had the whole like incubus attack over airplanes and air travel before.
Right.
Flat out refuses to do it. So he's probably the only one in my life that falls in that category. And I don't know about you. I mean, you have a brother who's a pilot, don't you? So
I do. I've never flown with him though.
do you want to fly with your brother?
In a big plane, because he's an airline pilot. I would fly on an airline flight with him, but not a little one.
Not a little one.
I don't want to feel every bump. That's
Okay.
what she said.
That's fair. Another call on the line here. Hello, you're on.
Put that call through.
You are on with Ty and Dan. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you?
Good. Who's this?
This is Dan from Lubbock via Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay. Hello, sir. How are you?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Good. What can we help you with?
Let's see. I also have two questions. The first one, you and I actually talked a little bit on Twitter about it last night, talking about the best Penn State bars that we have.
Yes.
So I was going to ask you, Ty, what your favorite Penn State bar was, and Dan, which bar he was favorite of during his days as the tailgate guy, because I imagine he went to a lot of them across America.
Very good
That's a
question.
loaded question. So for me,
Hi, jump on that.
yeah, let me. I'll give a little bit more away of myself here. This is feeling uncomfortable. The violations so far on the program, but
Yeah.
First about my job, now about my.
I think
college
that's
tenure.
not that personal.
No, I'm kidding. I lived in Beaver Hill and I lived in Cedar Brook, which is right off Beaver Avenue, along one of the two main drags in State College, and our bar of choice was actually the Gingerbread Man, which I'm told is no longer cool, which is one of the signs that you're getting older and you go back and it's like, wait, what? People aren't coming here anymore?
Yeah, it's the frat bar now.
Yeah, that's what I'm told, that it's the frat thing. And I wasn't involved in the whole frat thing. So for me, it was a funeral of sorts. But unfortunately, for better or worse, my bar of choice was always a Gingerbread Man. I'm not saying it's the best. It was just the one we ended up at most.
All right, that's fair. I'm looking through the top 25 and thinking about the teams I've I've visited during my travels. I don't know if there's a specific bar in Austin that I can remember that I really liked a lot, but going out in Austin was always really fun. But specifically, I like Rennie's in Eugene, Oregon a lot. I like what was the bar? Did we go to a bar in Lincoln, Ty?
Yeah, we did. What was that called?
I do not. I know we went out in Omaha. All right, I'm gonna give I like State Street Brats a lot. It's kind of like it's a shit show in Madison, but it's a fun shit show, if such a phrase could ever exist. And then I wouldn't say it was a great bar experience, but it was a good life experience in what is the city right near Clemson? Greenville, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
I think that's where we stayed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stayed in Greenville, South Carolina. Was there with my producer from Sports Illustrated, who happens to be camera guy Dave and is now at Fox Sports. And I remember going to a bar in Greenville, and it was really busy, which was very weird. And then we found out there was some sort of like multi-sorority event, and we were like, oh, we should probably go. We're 25 and dumb dudes, and let's go to this bar. And we didn't want to wait in line, so Dave said, hey, we're visiting from out of town, we're media, and he pulled that card.
Right.
And so we were led into the VIP section of a bar in Greenville, South Carolina. And then as we went to the dance floor at the bar, because there were girls all over the place dancing.
That's what you do.
Girls just started grinding up on us.
All
like
up on
18, 19-year-old girls.
Okay.
And I would say that was a memorable experience. I don't remember the name of that bar, but Greenville, South Carolina, ahoy. Also, I like the Old Pro in Palo Alto.
The Old Pro.
The Old Pro. Giant beer, like not test tubes. What is graduated cylinder? Is that a phrase that exists still?
Sure.
It was like 4 gallons of beer in some sort of scientific contraption.
You're talking like the Tower of Beer?
Something like that. I don't know exactly. I don't know. It was there was a tap on it, and the food there was really good. That's all I really remember about the Old Pro. I think those are my only answers. Let me
throw into our caller, Dan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill Pickles Tap Room at Penn State. Are you?
I like it.
See, I've had a contentious relationship with Bill Pickle. I feel like every time I go there, there's like a grumpy bartender, or if not a grumpy bartender, someone grumpy at the door. And through my first 2 trips there, it kind of cast a poor light on Bill Pickles Tap Room. But I was there.
Right.
I was there back in April, and it was a much different setting. They like turned the lights on, and it wasn't a dungeon, and that seemed to do it justice. So I'm sort of on the fence about Bill Pickles, and I could probably give that one 2 thumbs up if I had another good experience there.
Right. I've never had any problem with the people there, but because it's sort of the Philadelphia bar in State College,
right?
That's sort of what, like if there's a Phillies game or something like that going on, I try to steer clear.
Well,
but
the Phillies
other than
fans
that,
are steering clear at this point too, but that's a different story
Yeah.
altogether. All right. Favorite bars. We got your favorite bars. What else you got?
And I'm just starting to preview Penn State Syracuse this week. And the more I look at it, the more nervous I am, I guess you would say.
Right.
The line's up to, 8 points now
Yeah.
in Penn State's favor, and I don't like that one bit with neither team naming a quarterback and just Penn State still trying to heal up from injuries, especially in the linebacking core and things like that. And I just figured I'd get your take on it.
Okay. So it is a Syracuse game. Syracuse also loses a lot, not the least of which is its best player and also its coach, who are now both in the NFL. Syracuse
Couple
has
of its best players.
Yeah, Syracuse has a monumental rebuilding process on its hands as well. And it's not as publicized as Penn State because a lot's going on at Penn State that didn't happen at Syracuse. But I think they're probably in worse shape than Penn State is. I like Penn State in this game, and I'm not as concerned about who's playing quarterback. I think as you progress through the season, that's when it will start to rear its head. And whether or not it's Ferguson or Hackenberg will be more of an issue. But for this first game, I think there's a reason that the line is 8 right now. It's a neutral site game. There'll be a lot of Penn State people there, probably more Penn Staters than Syracuse fans there. I think they cover that spread right now, to be honest with you. I think they will run Syracuse into the ground and try and minimize whatever throws they're making in the passing game. I like Penn State a lot in that game, actually.
I have no addition to that statement. I like Penn State. I'm not sure how much I like them. I don't think I'm as enthusiastic as you are, especially since, I mean, it was Bill O'Brien's first season, but how slowly they started last season was a little bit disappointing. But, maybe they kicked the ball a little bit better this year.
I mean, they got a lot better from start to finish last season.
Yes, they did.
You got to feel pretty good about that. I like them a lot in this game. I don't like Syracuse at all this year. I think they might be among the worst in their conference. So.
Syracuse doesn't feel like a team that can take advantage consistently of what Penn State may be lacking sort of in the back seven.
Yeah.
Not this season.
No. I feel good about them, Dan. I really do.
Okay. Cool, guys. Hey, happy birthday, and thanks for taking my call.
Thanks.
Yay!
All right. Thank you, Dan. I like Penn State in this game.
Double Dan. Yeah, as do I.
I feel pretty good about them in that game.
What's their ceiling this season?
I'm gonna backtrack a little bit here.
Yeah.
I think I'm on record in a previous show saying that maybe 5 wins was their ceiling. I'm willing to
They play a lot of really so-so teams.
I'm willing to revise that a bit upwards.
Wow. Okay.
And I don't know how.
7?
Yeah, I mean, I think 7 is probably the ultimate ceiling. Like, if they go for more than 7 wins, there's something that I've drastically missed. But
7 wins. 7 wins means that either Ferguson or Hackenberg, and this is Monday, August. What is today?
26th.
August 26th.
Yeah.
As of now, no starter has been named, and that means either one of those, whoever ends up sort of carrying the Lions' share, you get that, the Lions.
That was good.
Of the passing responsibilities, it means that they're efficient and not giving the ball away. And that's really all you can ask of either one of them as first-year starters. So Syracuse, Eastern Michigan, UCF, Kent State, Indiana are the first 5 games.
Should be at worst 4-1.
With the only road game being in Bloomington at Indiana. So at worst, they should be 4-1 heading into the Michigan game on the 12th.
Agreed.
They have Michigan and Ohio State in consecutive schedule weeks, so they have a week off between them. So not terrible, but they're probably not going to beat either one of those teams. I think that's realistic.
A conservative estimate would put them at 4-3 headed into November, right?
A November start of Illinois at Minnesota, Purdue, with Illinois coming off of an all-time awful season. Minnesota, they'll show flashes, and Purdue with a new coach, and that's at in-state college.
Two of 3 there gets them to 6 wins.
2 of 3 gets them to 6 wins, and they close with Nebraska and at Wisconsin. Nebraska could potentially still have an awful defensive front. We're saying best case for Penn State here.
Right.
And Wisconsin is a new coach, an offensive coordinator I'm not crazy about. They named, I want to say today, Joel Stave is officially the starter.
Okay.
In Madison.
A little disappointed they didn't go with John Stocco.
Well, that's Brooks Bollinger.
Right.
So 6-6, 7-5 feels more likely to happen than anything better or worse to me.
Yeah, I'm willing to revise that upwards, and I've been watching the lines. I watch these lines.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm posting either tomorrow or the day after my rules of college football gambling on our new website.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 15,000 words long. So I watch these lines pretty intently. This line was at 7.5. Now it's up to 8 on the site I'm at right now.
Right.
I think a lot of people are kind of coming to their senses about Penn State, especially in this game. I think this is a good matchup for them.
Mm-hmm.
I like them a lot in this game. So, all right, we've got a caller on the line. Hello, how are you? Hello.
Hello?
Yo.
Hey, I'm sorry. This is Prince Soiree from Cincinnati.
How are you?
Yeah, I've met this gentleman.
Oh, yeah?
You have, down in Austin.
Yep.
Okay.
I had a question for you fellas. I think I just caught you at the end of talking about Penn State, and as you know, I'm a Penn State fan, Ty. Question, do you feel at all, if Penn State stays compliant, that maybe they might revisit these sanctions maybe after year 3, or should I just wait until 2016?
I wouldn't hold my breath that they'll get them reduced, but I think they could probably present a pretty strong argument, at least after year 2, that justice has been done, at least in a football sense, and potentially make a move to try and get those reduced. I think they could probably make a pretty good case for it, but I wouldn't hold my breath that it happens because, again, it is just by nature of what went on at Penn State. It's such a sensitive issue, and the NCAA is already in such hot water with so much credibility issue in nearly every story. I wouldn't be surprised if they just let it stood, even if Penn State had a case. So I'm optimistic, but I wouldn't hold my breath.
There are certain things that are working in Penn State's favor, I feel like, for any sort of reduction or time served, and that's the growing and the groundswell of sentiment against the NCAA, which appears to be leading towards nothing necessarily dramatic, but there could be changes in the way the organization operates and the leadership to the organization. That's where the momentum feels like it's going. And I am not nearly smart enough to figure out anything like this, but it's legislation and it's lawsuits. I guess not legislation, but lawsuits and bringing up this sort of case as being over the top in some sort of appeal to a governing body or when I say governing body, I don't mean the NCAA, on a state or federal level or something where it is crippling and sort of withholding. And I don't know. What I'm saying is there seems to be more and more support and more people questioning what the NCAA does on a governmental level that could institute change. But really, I have no idea what I'm talking about. But it seems that if ever there were a time as college football heads into a changing landscape, now would be when Penn State should hope for the best of things.
As a Penn State fan, Prince, how do you feel about the opener against Syracuse? 8-point favorites in MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford.
I think 8 points is a lot.
Yeah, okay.
I think even though Syracuse, I mean they're not great, but they're not pushover either, especially if both Hack and Ferguson not having any kind of game reps. I feel that they might pull it out because I think their front 11 on both sides are stronger than Syracuse. But I don't know if it's going to be by a touchdown. I'd say about a field goal or something like that. We'll see.
Right.
I'm going to be there at the game, but I don't feel that confident for a touchdown or more.
Okay. So you're not confident. You're not as confident as I am.
No, I'm confident for the season a little more. I think that if we can get to like 4-1 or 5-1 by the time we play Michigan, that momentum might get us to like a 7, possibly 8 with maybe like a upset of Nebraska, something like that.
Okay.
And I think that'd be great. But I wouldn't put a lot on 8 right now for Syracuse.
Okay, fair enough.
Prince, can I ask you something?
Of course.
You're in Cincinnati?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
All right. Have you eaten at a place called A Tavola, a pizza place?
I have.
How is it?
It's very good. It's very
All
good. I do not like Chicago deep dish, so it's more of like a like flatbread kind of thing.
Right.
Fancy, but it's good stuff. Yeah.
I've seen pictures and it looks really good. And whenever I talk to people from Cincinnati, I just Ty, I remember these places. That like if I'm ever in Cincinnati, point to A Tavola. Yeah, deep dish is
if you
awful.
Are in Cincinnati, I will have to buy you a drink. I know we met in Austin.
Yeah,
that'd be great. But Dan, I'm going to be I'm going to the Stanford Oregon game. Go Ducks!
Nice.
Because of listening to you these last years, I've become a Duck fan. So
Oh God, gag me now. I've got the switch here. I can hang up. On
Penn
you.
State and Oregon fandom. That means he's a true solid verbal fan.
It really
Ty.
does.
That's all that means.
Yeah.
I am true.
Well, have a
but
good
thanks,
time
guys.
in
You guys
Palo
are
Alto
great.
and at that game. That's a fun stadium. Since they remodeled it, it's a good time. It's very nice.
I'm excited, but I don't want to clog up the line. You guys are great. Look forward to hearing you guys every week. And go Penn State. Ty, just give us a little rooting through the season. That's all I ask.
All right, I can do that, Prince. Thanks for the call.
Thanks, guys.
All right, that again is Prince from Cincinnati calling in. He's another Penn. We have a lot of Penn Staters who listen to this show.
Yeah, absolutely, and as we should.
I don't know how they feel about me. Actually, I know how they feel about me. The whole Notre
They
Dame.
love you in State College.
The whole Notre Dame thing has really gunked up the works a bit. People are proud to have me as a Penn State grad,
Right.
but
Talking about the creamery.
but maybe not openly because of the Notre Dame fandom.
Okay, I feel like on this show, a higher percentage of the time is spent by you worried about Notre Dame, sort of bashing Tommy Rees, having little faith in Notre Dame's success. I think more time is spent on those things than actual love of Notre Dame. And then I feel like there's more positivity about Penn State. More like, I'm rooting for them. I hope they do well. Given all that they've been through, I hope they're able to pull through. Bill O'Brien's done some great things. 2012, what a shocker. How fun was that? I feel like you really put forth enough positive Penn State energy.
Here's the thing, full disclosure. Growing up in eastern Pennsylvania, being raised by a Catholic family that was adamantly behind Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, I was not a Penn State fan. I rooted against Penn State. And even into college,
right,
I rooted somewhat against the Nittany Lions. But after college, I sort of warmed up. And then after everything went down, believe it or not, that was pretty much the breaking point for me. That was when I turned.
You're hoping for the best.
It became really difficult, even for the most outspoken Penn State opponents, to root against this team because they've been through so much. A lot of kids who had nothing to do with anything were essentially penalized for people before them. And I realize it's like that for all programs when they are penalized in some way, shape, or form. But it seems like Penn State, for better or worse, got the real brunt of whatever the NCAA could do to it without killing off the program. So it's tough to root against this team right now. And you're right. I'm not a rah-rah. I'm not at that point yet. But I am definitely trying to send positive vibes in the direction of State College because of all that's going on.
Did you grow to appreciate the sort of traditions and atmosphere and old-timey fun of Penn State when you were there, and the enthusiasm and like the whiteout and all that stuff?
I love Penn State. Love every minute of Penn State. But it was just a kind of thing where I grew up and didn't root for him. And I've sort of changed my stripes a little bit here. We're waiting for more calls, by the way. 408-VERBAL-1 is the phone number. We've probably got time for one or two more. I want to throw this out to you, Dan, because there was some news that Jameis Winston is now the starting quarterback at Florida State.
Bunch of new starting quarterback announcements, yeah.
I was looking over Florida State's schedule, and granted there are some questions, but this is still a solid team. This is a top 10 team, I think, almost by every measure. This is a team...
Not a top 10 coach.
Not a top 10 coach, but this is a team that if you look at the schedule and if you look at the personnel coming back, when we had that discussion a few weeks ago about what team potentially could be a sleeper that no one's talking about, Florida State is interesting.
Not a sleeper.
Maybe not a sleeper, but is interesting.
They're a major A-list program.
Not a lot of people talking about Florida State as a potential BCS champion this year.
That's correct.
Everyone's talking Alabama or Texas A&M,
too.
Stanford, Oregon. Maybe people are scared, and that's fair. But listen to this schedule. At Pitt to open up the season, which I still don't know how I feel about that game, by the way.
Really? Okay.
Nevada, which isn't a bad team, but...
Nevada. Ty.
It's Nevada. What is it?
I believe it's Nevada.
All right. Bethune-Cookman at BC.
If it were just Bethune, easy win.
Since it's both of them? Okay.
Since it's both, that's tough.
At Boston College, should be a win.
Yep.
Maryland before a bye week, and then Clemson. This is when it gets into the more difficult stretch of the schedule. At Clemson, home against NC State, home against Miami, at Wake, home against Syracuse, home against Idaho, and then on the road Saturday, November 30th in Ben Hill Griffin Stadium against the Florida Gators. That's the toughest game probably on
Florida
their schedule.
Gators team that may be down at least one or two significant offensive linemen.
So it's got some moments throughout the course of the season that could be challenging, but by and large, the schedule isn't one that I would classify as being over the top difficult. I think they could go through this.
I mean, Clemson, Boston College, and Wake on the road in the ACC.
Yeah,
you could do a lot worse. Here's my counter. Where will Florida State Clemson themselves this year? And you can't answer with Clemson.
It could be NC State again, to be perfectly honest with you. Between the Clemson game,
week after Clemson, and the week before Miami. That's your letdown look-ahead sandwich game right there. I love your deli-related gambling terms. Well, it's true, and I'm going to talk more about this in the in the piece that I put out there. But
think of yourself when you're
Dave
at
Doran's
work.
revenge
Think
after
of
the
your-
Orange Bowl.
Think of yourself for a second. The last day of work before a long vacation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you treat that day, Daniel, in general?
It's a 1 p.m. day, tops of caring about work.
My friends and I refer to that as Operation Shutdown. That's how we treat it, all right? In honor of Derek Bell, the old Pirates player who famously coined the term Operation Shutdown.
Right.
Operation Shutdown is how we treat it. And I suspect that's not something you develop once you start working in a corporate environment. That's sort of always with you. And it's just a natural human thing, especially 18 to 22-year-old kids. The game is at home, but still, it doesn't mean as much as Clemson, and it doesn't mean as much as Miami. That has all the makings of your letdown look-ahead sandwich there. I will be betting NC State in that game.
That is a fair point. I think that's the correct answer. Dave Doran's revenge.
We need a sound for that.
Dave Doran's revenge.
Let me throw something else out there here again. 408 Verbal 1. We'll take one more call.
Uno
if
mas.
we can get one. One more call here onto the Solid Verbal Hotline. I want to throw another team out there and get your read on this. What do you think about Louisville this year?
Louisville.
A really easy schedule. You
Yeah,
know,
they're still going to lose 1 or 2 games.
kind of on the cusp of being a top 10 team. I know we've discussed this before. What if they've got like no losses and an SEC team has 2? How do they fit into the equation? But where does this team fit in the landscape of college football this season?
All right, they've proven that they, while playing very well, can beat a very good SEC team in Florida with, Florida players saying that they didn't care, notwithstanding. A lot to really like about this Louisville offense, but I think lost in all of the Louisville plays nothing. They have Teddy Bridgewater. He might be the number 1 quarterback taken in next year's draft. Their defense isn't that good. Their defense is fine, but it's not that good. So at this point, again, late August on paper, I refuse to hold them in the same esteem as any major conference team, any other major conference team in the top 12, 15, which is where you're generally finding Louisville. The receiving core is perhaps as deep and perhaps really even as talented as any receiving core in the country. The Cincinnati game is going to be really interesting just because I think it's the last game of the season, and Cincinnati perhaps is sort of undervalued. Bill Connolly wrote a long thing about the Bearcats today for SB Nation. I think it's an 11-1, 10-2 team, just with how uneven they may be at times.
Does it bother you that they're potentially as an undefeated team in the BCS mix? Would it bother you if we get to week 14 and Louisville is somehow in the equation? Would that bother you considering
National championship or just for a BCS
national
game?
championship? Louisville's in the discussion.
It won't bother me. It depends on how their season goes. If they're beating everybody, like again, we compared them, I don't know if it was the previous episode or the one before that, we compared them to Boise State, just in a slightly better situation, I think. If they're beating everybody 52-10 on that schedule, then it becomes a team where, like, yes, I would like to see them against Alabama or LSU or Stanford's defense, I would like to see that. I would like to have the opportunity to watch that. But if we're talking about close calls against UConn and USF and Cincinnati, I like still. But if we're talking about close calls like that, I don't want to see a team that's barely getting by those level teams play against an SEC, Pac-12, Big 12 team that has really separated themselves from the field. That would be kind of a bummer, yes.
I feel like a lot of folks would have a hard time with that. A lot of folks would have a hard time with it because we've seen that argument come up time and time again. Boise State's probably a pretty good example of that, right?
Right.
They're in the equation. Well, they're not in the SEC.
Would you rather see a national championship game involving an SEC team and Boise State that runs the table and is dominant, or against Louisville that runs the table and is dominant?
See, I think the answer there is probably Boise State because Boise State kind of has the allure to them now after all those years of being sort of in the hunt and never getting there, and people would probably take to them a little easier than they might.
You think so?
I think so, yeah. I think people would take
Louisville's a team in the South with a recognizable quarterback name. I don't know.
But Boise
I go
State
back
is
and forth.
Boise
Boise State
State's
is
sort
the
of
bigger brand.
They're the
Oh,
bigger brand and they're the perennial underdog. And people
Right.
in this country love the underdog story. Can't get enough of the underdog story. And for how close Boise was to getting in that game in previous years, I think folks would be all over that. All over that. It would give the people without a team to root for a team to root for.
Right. But in previous years, Boise always had that big name win early on. That, Georgia, Virginia Tech, Oregon last season, they didn't have it, but they still played Michigan State early, which was thought of as a top 10 program at the time. This year they have Washington. This year, and look, going to Washington, a team that's favored by 3 or 4 points at home against the Broncos, and beating them would be very impressive regionally, not nationally.
By the way, Paul Meyerberg has Boise State as his number 9 team this year.
Yeah, and I get it. Boise State, this is Joe Southwick coming back for his senior year. The Broncos 51-2 when they have a returning starter at quarterback. Not a bad place to start off. Interesting talent on offense. Another good deep receiving core. The offensive line is pretty good. DeMarcus Lawrence is a star in waiting at defensive end. Ricky Jangacho.
Right.
He seems like he's been there forever.
Yeah.
And they replace a couple of corners, and they really have been a great defense this past sort of half decade. But I don't know really who's standing in their way, perhaps other than Washington and Fresno State.
No. I don't know how I feel.
Are you talking about? I think you're talking about a baseline of 10-2.
I don't know how I feel about that game. To be perfectly honest with you, I need to
Washington one?
I need to go into deep study before I'm willing to make a call
It's
on
a
that one.
really interesting matchup.
Washington's a difficult place to play, no doubt, and of
New
course,
stadium.
new digs. Yeah, this is going to be a big deal for those guys. And of course, there's a lot on the line now. Year 5 of the Steve Sarkisian era. What will he do? He needs to get past 7 wins.
Yes, he does.
A lot on the line. We've got one call on the line. This is our final call here on the
Final
Solid Verbal.
call.
Thanks for tuning into the live show here. Ty and Dan on with a new caller. Hello, who's this?
Hi, guys. This is Matt in Oregon.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Nice.
Doing pretty good. Can't wait. 3 days till kickoff, so pretty excited.
What's up? What's on your mind?
I had an interesting, as a Ducks fan, I had an interesting kind of morbid thought. Say Mark Helfrich doesn't work out, right? Say it's just he's not up to the task.
Tommy Tuberville. Sorry.
My question would be, at this point, Oregon has raised themselves up in national relevance. What coaches could Oregon not steal away from a program? Who could they not get? Because I feel like that list would actually be pretty short.
I feel like it's longer than you think. But Ty?
Which coaches could they not
maybe-
steal away? Yeah.
Like
Which
10
coaches
names
would
at
not-
most?
Yeah. I don't think they could steal away Bob Stoops because I don't think Bob Stoops is going anywhere.
Right.
I don't think
Right,
they could.
Bob Stoops.
Bob Stoops is one. Brian Kelly, I don't think is leaving Notre Dame. If he does, it's for the NFL.
I
I
never
think-
say never with
Les
Brian
Miles.
Kelly leaving anywhere.
I guess we just assume they could get Todd Graham because he seems like he's always willing. So he's sort of off the
Please,
list.
no.
Mac Brown's probably going to retire at some point. He wouldn't go to Oregon.
I don't think Oregon would be making that call, Ty.
No, I don't think so either. That's a great question. Urban Meyer? Could they get Urban Meyer?
No, they could not.
Urban Meyer
No,
from the
he'd be
state of
one that
Ohio?
wouldn't stay.
I don't
He
think
likes
So what's that?
he
6
likes-
or 7?
you could probably get 10 names on that list, Dan.
I think I could get more than that. I don't think Charlie Strong is going to Oregon. I don't think Nick Saban is going to Oregon. I don't think Urban Meyer, Brian Kelly, Kevin Sumlin, I don't think would go to Oregon. I don't think they're calling Lane Kiffin. I don't think David Shaw is going to Oregon. I don't think, who else am I looking at? I don't think Brady Hoke is going to Oregon.
Let me throw another name out.
Yeah.
Chris Peterson.
I don't think Chris Peterson's going to Oregon.
No? He's got
Yeah,
I
roots
don't
there.
he
think
would.
so.
I think he would.
So you-
The only problem is that Chris Peterson runs such a pro-style sort of offense that Oregon's identity, he would come in and have to change everything, and I don't think Oregon would look to do, to get away with what has made them so successful over these past, 6-7 years.
That's sort of
You know
that's
who
sort
I
of the
would love,
problem.
Ty?
I was gonna say
Continue.
that's sort of the problem because they've run this oop-de-oop system now for a couple of years, Dan.
Oop-de-oop?
This finesse-based
Oop-de-oop.
offense.
How? Ty, just wrong again.
Who
He's
could they
moved
bring
away
in
from
that would?
gimmicky.
Yeah, gimmicky. That's right. How could they possibly find someone to fill that void?
Who's your dream candidate? Now that we're going into a hypothetical world in which the coach who has not coached but a single game does not work out, who's your dream candidate that seems realistic?
The coach of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, he's in 18 months. It still
Yeah,
won't happen.
That's long enough for the two of them. If they simultaneously don't work out, what if they just go back to the way things were?
Oh man, that'd be like a divorced
that
couple,
ever
like going
happen?
back out onto the dating scene, realizing they're not going to do any better. That's just a bummer for everybody involved, kind of.
Yeah.
Ty, who do you think Oregon could get? Which big name coach do you think they could attract that fits in with the culture of Oregon, and also is at a school in which he would feel comfortable leaving?
I was gonna say Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson is one
that's
that
fair.
he jumps off the page at me. I don't know if it would happen, but I think he fits the culture. I think he's got some ties there. I think that would be the one program he'd leave for if he were offered it. But other than him,
Right.
I think it's a pretty short list.
I would cast my vote for Art Briles. That's who I would
Okay.
want.
Ooh.
It's a
There you
program that is a legitimate step 2, 3 steps beneath Oregon and the heights that Oregon has ascended to. Runs a system that's not similar in sort of precise ways, but the sensibility of a wide open offense, has the Texas recruiting connections,
Has
has developed quarterbacks at
Ha-
an ungodly rate.
has the Lake Seastrunk connection too.
How dare you, sir? Has the Lake Seastrunk connection. Covets speed, runs seems to, he's sort of a good old Texas kind of guy. And I don't feel like that's completely different than the sort of outdoorsy Oregon sort of lifestyle. I think that they're at a similar pace. My vote would be for Arthur Ray Briles.
Is that his real middle name?
Yes, it actually is. I looked it up.
Good for you. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. Well, thanks for the call.
Thanks, guys. Love
All
the
right.
show.
Take care. All
Take
right.
it easy. Go Ducks.
Dan, I think that just about does it. Got a bunch of calls here tonight at 408 Verbal 1.
That's a fun show we just did.
I really enjoyed that, and unfortunately, it's not something we've done a whole lot of
Right.
over the years here on the show. But it's always a lot of fun. We've done it twice now. We're going to have to do it again at some point in the future. Maybe mid-season will
Yeah.
be a good time to maybe turn the phone lines back on. In the meantime, though, as we progress through the season, 408
Yep.
Verbal 1 will be your new reverb line. Last year it was a different number. This year it's going to be 408 Verbal 1. We've got all sorts of plans in the works to do some cool things with reverbs beyond what you hear on our Sunday recap shows. We've got a few things in the cooker which we'll reveal as the season progresses. But do call in when you're watching the games at 408 Verbal 1, and we'll do our best to cut up your messages and play them on our Sunday recap show. Dan, I know you're hard at work now as the college football season draws near. You're doing a show, right? A new show.
I am
on
doing a
SB
show.
Nation.
Yeah. And
what can
I
you
will
tell us about the show?
exclusively reveal. What?
I said, what can you tell us about the show?
I'm going to tell you this. Name of the show is Easy Call, as in, hey, Alabama's favored by 1.5 against Cal. Who are you taking? Oh, Alabama, easy call. Because it's a gambling term. It's called Easy Call. It's a prediction show. We're taking a look at the top 5. It's by we, I mean I. Taking a look at the top 5 matchups of the week. It's going up every Wednesday at noon Eastern, so I guess 9 Pacific. But we're doing it from different restaurants around New York since, look, it's food, it's college football. You've listened to this show long enough to realize that they probably go hand in hand. So lots of beautiful shots of things like barbecue and sandwiches and tacos and stuff like that. Awesome graphics, breaking things down, and all sorts of fun guests from the SB Nation network and not SB Nation, sort of our friends. And Ty is going to sort of grace our video waves with his beautiful face, his boyish good looks,
Thank
talk
you.
about all the gambling fun that he's involved in. So Yeah, each and every week, it's not going to be a long show. We're not going to ask you to watch it for 20 minutes or a half hour or an hour or something like that. So if you like food, if you like college football, if you can tolerate me, I would say that watch that show Wednesdays at noon.
And to dovetail into that, we're going to be doing some stuff on solidverbal.com after the first week of the season. You can check back daily. We're going to provide some written content. We've got a whole host of characters that are going to get in on the action with us. Again, we're not breaking news. We're not going to be ESPN.com, but it'll give you something to do at work. We have a fundamental belief here on the Solid Verbal that people are still bored at work as they were 5 years ago when we first started the Solid Verbal. And I don't think that's bound to change anytime soon, so we're going to try and throw people a bone and give them something to read throughout their work days. Hope maybe their afternoons and mornings go a little more smoothly. Before we go, Dan, I would be remiss if I didn't mention one more time that tomorrow it will be 5 years since we started the Solid Verbal.
What should we get each other?
I don't know. I was wondering that. I was going to ask you, is there any kind of gift that you'd like for me to send you, other than Sherry's Berries, of course?
Oh, Sherry's Berries, a great gift for any time. That's a good question. I feel like at some point this season, we will see each other, and I just want to share a meal with you. Your company is gift enough.
That's very sweet of you, Dan. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. Well, it has been a incredibly rewarding and strange trip to this point. When we next broadcast on Wednesday, push out our next show, we'll be talking actual games. Wow. Week 1 is finally upon us after the long doldrums of the offseason, and I think I speak for you when I say we're both pretty excited.
We are. You know what we haven't heard in a long time?
What's that?
Help, Dan, Ty, I need picks.
That will be this coming Wednesday. Don't miss it. Get in the Pick'em pool. In the meantime, head out to FanDuel.com. Register for that free $5,000 entry. In the meantime,
do it.
Big thanks to all of our callers tonight. For that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein. For myself, Ty Hildebrand here in Eastern Pennsylvania. Thanks again for listening in. Happy birthday to us, and stay solid.
Peace.